Hello, in this video we'll go through the setups that are related to rentals. I'll only go through the setups. There are two other videos on the processes, one for the role center and backend and another video for the post processes. But let's just go through what is required to set up before you can start to use this activity for rental handling. So if we start to go through the administration, go to setup. We open up the main setup. There's a rental section, and first of all you need to set up the number series for the rental units. Each rental unit gets assigned a unique number or barcode, if you will. And by setting this number series, it will be those numbers are automatically assigned when you create a new unit. If you leave this blank, then you are allowed to manually enter the unit identification or the unit number. Also here in the main setup, you can set up the statuses on the activities, or the rental activity. So each rental is basically an activity or similar as an appointment, so it's a rental activity, and it has a status just like any other activities. And here we can define what status will be assigned to the activity when it's being returned through the point of sale. So either returned, or if it's late returned, and if we want to indicate those rentals with different status. This is not a required setting, but it's a good practice to have the rental contracts or activities identified specifically when they have been returned. So I've created status, and this status is just a returned equipment. And basically, if you take a look at that status, doesn't do anything else. It's just an identification on that it has been returned. So this is the main setup. Then we have we need to set up a reservation type if we are taking just reservations or activities that are just rentals. Of course, the rental activity type can also be part of any other reservation. For example, if we have some general reservation, we could add rental there as part of the possibilities that you can enter to that kind of reservations. But you can also have specific rental contracts that are basically only rentals and nothing else. So if you create a reservation type like that, you would normally allow multiple clients. You might allow multiple locations or not. You would need to set the date range to date period, and you might add here show rental units. You might want to see the rental units, basically the equipment or whatever you're assigning to the rental contracts, which the products that you're renting out actually. So you might want to show them specifically as a section on the reservation, and then you mark this setting here, show rental units. Then on the activity types, basically activity types are like a product category if you compare it to retail items. So this is the category of products. And for rental products, we want to have multiple days, because a rental can be from for many days, for example. We want to require a client because we want always to associate a known contact or a known person to the rental. And then there are special rental settings here for late returns. Basically how you're going to handle the late returns. In this case, a product calculation, that means it's just going to make a new line or new activity for late returns, which is exactly same like the original line, but just with the dates or the time period that was extra. And here you give the flexibility of late returns. In this case, I'm allowing 60 minutes late returns for any product that's within the rental category or rental activity type. Then when you're done with that, we have the resource groups. So we need to create a resource group, again like a category for the resources. And here, what is specifically for rentals, normally they would be equipment. And then we have something called capacity based on unit tracking. So capacity, that means that we are going to keep track of assigned and return units for any resources that are rental resources or rental resources. Otherwise, it's pretty standard setups here. Usage count based on how many activities are assigned, or the number of resources basically, and the time it's gonna, and the usage is the time period it's reserved. On the status setups, there are settings that are basically, if you want to streamline the processes around the rental, at which point, for example, units are assigned, and at which point the units are required. So this is not required settings. It's more like a fine detail of streamlining. So here on per activity status, I can define if we allow to enter assignments or not when the contract is in this status. And also we can set up, prior to assigning this particular status, if we require that the units have already been reserved, or if we require that the units have already been returned, or basically no units assigned. So this is, like I say, just to streamline the rental process. So you can define at which stage or which status of the rental contract you can allow assignments, or you can allow, or you can require that the assignments have already been done at that point. Then you can assign set up attributes for rental units. So that is basically any kind of additional information that you need per rental unit. Could be serial numbers, etc. And you can also define that they are only for a certain type of units, basically in this case the resource, which is, in our case, we're going to be renting carriages. So these are the kind of core settings needed for rental. And then when you're done with these, you have to set up, of course, the resources that you're renting, and the units and the products. So if we start with the products, so I've created here one product, rental carriages. Sorry, let's start with the resources first and then go into products. That's a better sequence, because products are then based basically you need to set on the products which resources you are renting out. So let's start with the resources. So here I have created a resource carriage. We're renting out carriages, and this resource, it belongs to the resource group rental, which we had defined to rent equipment. And this resource group has unit tracking. That means that available quantity is non-editable. I cannot enter anything here, but we get this option here, rental units. So basically here you can create the rental units which you're renting for that particular resource. So we have carriages as a resource, and then each individual unit is registered for that particular resource. So when we create new units, they actually have, you can start up in status draft, and then you set them as available, and you define the base location, and all the rest, the expected in availability and expected time is according to when the contract is when the unit is then rented. So you can have status in rental, which is only assigned by the system when you actually rent out this particular unit. But we can block the unit for rental, for example, when it's in maintenance, and then we can also set an expected time back and availability and expected date back and availability. auto inventory is just when you have finally not using this unit and you want to just end the renting of that particular unit. Once product is in rental or unit is in rental, the expected in availability and expected time are set based on the rental contract. And you would see here current assignment. That would be the current rental contract or rental activity that is reserving this particular unit. And here we can hit transactions. We can see all transactions that are related to this unit. It's just currently in rental. And any attributes, and you can add the attributes and based on the attribute setup and enter any kind of information you need for this particular unit. So this would be the unit definitions. So you got the resource with the units, and that would be the basis of then creating your products. So if you go to products, and I have created already here a rental product to rent these carriages, and we are renting them out on day basis. So I have quantity conversion to the number of days. That means when we enter quantity in the rental contract, it's going to be based on number of days. This could also, if you're renting per hours or minutes or any other type of period, you can define those here in the quantity conversion. Duration type is going to be days because it's going to end up in the number of days we are renting it. And we set up default time from and to, which is normally the time the equipment is out during its rental. Default view, activity card, and then we have the option of allowing quantity change, and we allow basically that's the only thing we have to set up on the rental products, except there's one more here. We have to set up the product type as being rental. You can only assign rental units on products that are of the type rental. So this would be the required settings. Then you set up, just like with any other activity product, what resource this product is representing. So we are actually renting out these carriages. So we require one resource of carriages when we actually sell this product. So, and then we have to make sure that our carriage is capable of doing this product. That's on the capability setting on the resource. So then we have our product, and of course you could create multiple products. You could be renting out these carriages on hourly basis or any other kind of period setting, and then you might have multiple products actually reserving the same resources. These are the settings required for rental, and see our videos on the processes regarding renting the process in the backend and the renting processes on the POS. Thank you.